The Falcons have made another wide receiver addition. This time it is wide receiver Ray-Ray McCloud. 2-year deal worth up to $6 million. He comes over from the 49ers in free agency. And let me just start by saying this. This is your Cordarelle Patterson replacement, right? They got Rondale Moore in a trade with Desmond Ridder. That's a ton of speed. And now they double down on that speed with Ray-Ray McCloud on a pretty lucrative contract for a return man. I mean, we've got some fun stats and facts for you guys here. Ray-Ray McCloud, the NFL punt return leader, punt return yards leader back in 2021. This is what he is being signed and paid to do. As a wide receiver, he doesn't have a whole lot of stats to go off of. Last year, I'm just reading this off my monitor, he had 12 receptions, 135 yards with the Niners. His best season was the 2021 season with the Steelers when he was awesome in punt returns. And in the receiving department, 39 grabs for 277 yards, no touchdowns. So primarily, he is a special teamer with some upside in the receiving department, but I think we are noticing a bit of a trend for Atlanta. They are really targeting speed at the wide receiver position, right? You can look at the Falcons wide receiver depth chart in a moment here, which is just growing by the day here with Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, and Cordarelle Hodge all being signed or traded in the last 48 hours. And you toss Ray-Ray McCloud in the mix there as well. But the recent additions of Mooney, Moore, McCloud, these are not 6'3" receivers, right? These are not 3rd and 5 targets. This is, we are going deep. We are getting speed. Something Atlanta just didn't have a whole lot of last year. It's not like Drake London's the fastest guy on the field. He's a bigger body receiver. So now the Falcons try to pair him with guys that maybe can fill in the cracks a little bit on his own game. So by no means is Drake London slow, but I think we can all agree that Atlanta's got a type right now when it comes to wide receiver, and it is fast, and that is what they are looking for. So grade the signing of Ray-Ray McCloud for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Now, we actually filmed a whole video before you started watching this one about the legal tampering or illegal tampering with Kirk Cousins allegation. So what we're going to do is actually going to throw it back to old me from like an hour ago when I filmed that, so we get it all into one video. Welcome into Falcons Today. Matthew Peterson here, reacting to the allegations about the Kirk Cousins tampering with the Falcons. So here's what I want to do on the show. I want to kind of run through a little bit of the facts and then also connecting the dots. And then we'll talk about what a potential punishment could be if they are found guilty. And then finally, we will wrap up the show by looking at Kirk Cousins' press conference and some of the takeaways I had from his first, meeting with the Atlanta media and the fan base as a result. But the story really started when Dianna Russini tweeted out, the league will be looking into potential tampering violations involving the Eagles and Saquon Barkley, as well as the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins per source. Important to note, this is standard for the league to look into such matters. So, obviously, these two are being called out by name, but I do think Dianna Russini brings up a good point of just because there's an investigation going on doesn't mean we should just rush to automatically guilty. Although, it won't be difficult to figure out whether or not they get to that verdict. Now, Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk, I think, had a very in-depth and very helpful breakdown of the alleged tampering going on with the Falcons and Kirk Cousins. And he broke it down step by step. So, first, he said, did team officials communicate with Cousins or his agent, Mike McCartney, before the start of the 52-hour negotiating window? If you're not familiar with the NFL free agency period, what goes on is you've got legal tampering on Monday through Wednesday. And then the new league year starts and there's no more legal tampering. It's just free agency and anyone can talk to anyone and sign with anyone at that point, right? During that legal tampering window, teams can talk to players' agents. They cannot talk to players themselves. Here's what the NFL's own website had on this, okay? A free agent is not permitted to visit with a team other than their current team. Furthermore, a player cannot be in contact with a team that is not their own. Only the agent can communicate on the player's behalf during this period. If a player acts as his own agent, he's out of luck. The NFL does not allow communication with another team before Wednesday. So the question kind of becomes, did the Falcons bring Kirk Cousins in for a medical visit? Take a look at that Achilles on a week before free agency. That would definitely be tampering. Cannot do that, right? Rules explicitly state so. Even if it wasn't a medical visit, did Kirk Cousins himself hop into the Flowery Branch office and check out what's going on with the Falcons? That would be very clear and obvious tampering. Did the Falcons themselves, did Raheem Morris or Terry Fontenot make a phone call to Kirk Cousins? All of these things are very easy for even a Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine team to figure out whether or not they're guilty or innocent of. You have video surveillance, a camera at the front door of every single team's facility, and you have phone records to see if you made the calls. Now, maybe the Falcons were trying to be a bit sleuthy and kind of go around these parameters. I'm not really sure, but it is definitely a wait-and-see type of mode right now for Atlanta Falcons fans. So that's the first one. That's the first step, right? Did we see a conversation go down between Kirk Cousins and the Falcons? Because you can only talk to the agent during the legal tampering window. Mike Florio also wrote, second, did Cousins or McCartney provide medical information to the Falcons before the start of the negotiating window? So, did we see some x-rays get faxed over to Flowery Branch about Kirk Cousins' Achilles? Like, those could be things that are constituted as illegal tampering, all right? Third, and this one's kind of interesting, did tight end Kyle Pitts or other players recruit Cousins with the knowledge of or at the direction of the team? Ordinarily, the tampering rules don't apply to players. That changes when players act as messengers for the organization. Pitts, who strongly denied rumors linking Cousins to Atlanta last week, was actively recruiting Cousins then and previously. Now, Mike Florio also was a guy who put out a report that Cousins was already talking to Kyle Pitts about the jersey number 8, and Kyle Pitts quote tweeted that and said, "You guys will just come up with anything." So I think Mike Florio is a little bit butthurt that Kyle Pitts called him out on what he said was a fake news report. So I think this is Florio trying to stick it right back at Kyle Pitts. But he said Cousins said so himself. That is in reference to Kirk Cousins being in line, I think, at Disney World or something. And he got a text message from Kyle Pitts saying, "Yo, come down to Atlanta," which that by itself is fine. But if they find out Raheem Morris called Kyle Pitts and said, "Can you please encourage Kirk Cousins to come to Atlanta," that would be legal tampering. Now, we're going to look at more of this in just a second, but first I want to relay some awesome information about our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I've had an absolute blast getting ready for all the games on the hardwood, and it is the largest DFS platform in North America. Now, what is Prize Picks? It's really simple. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player staff projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Let me give you an example of what it looks like on the app. It's very simple. You just select the players you want and choose more or less. It's that simple, and the withdrawals are super easy as well. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video, but download the Prize Picks app and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. So let's get back to some of the tampering allegations going on here, okay? Fourth, and this is all from Mike Florio I'm reading from. Fourth, and most importantly, did Cousins speak to or meet with the Falcons officials before 4 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday? Cousins admitted in his introductory press conference that he spoke with the team's head athletic trainer on Tuesday. He initially used the word meeting before stopping himself and changing it to calling. Cousins also mentioned talking to Director of Player Personnel Ryan Pace. Although Cousins didn't specifically say Pace's conversation happened before 4 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, Pace's phone records will provide a simple and easy answer. So, my gut reaction is it does seem a little bit fishy, and I wonder if Kirk Cousins might have screwed the pooch a little bit when speaking to the media, right? Did Kirk Cousins say a little bit too much when it comes to when he talked to the team's athletic trainer? Did Kyle Pitts and Kirk Cousins' conversation go anything above just a friendly recruiting pitch to Atlanta, which by itself is fine? Like, I think there are some serious allegations to be had here, and if you're wondering what could happen to the Falcons, well, we saw it somewhat recently, right, with Tom Brady and the Miami Dolphins. That cost the Dolphins a first-round pick for tampering allegations that ended up being, I guess, proven true in the NFL court of law. And then there's also one more thing. Cousins admitted on Wednesday, by the way, that he participated in the recruitment of former Bears receiver Darnell Mooney, who agreed to terms with the Falcons on Tuesday morning. So it looks like there are some violations to be had here. I do think there is some level of water being held by all this stuff here when it comes to the phone call or meeting with the trainer and the pitch from Kyle Pitts. Like, it's just, there's a lot of evidence stacking up against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. Now, what's going to happen to them? I don't know. I hope it's not a first-round pick. It was for Miami. That would really suck, especially when you pick 8th overall. Maybe because they're picking 8th overall, if they do decide to levy punishments for draft picks, it'll be maybe like some second and thirds. Maybe it's a ginormous fine. I pray it's a ginormous fine because it's not our money. But that's somewhat the latest on the allegations front for Kirk Cousins. Now, I want to dive into his press conference a little bit because he did have some other interesting tidbits he shared, not related to him basically self-incriminating himself for, violating the legal tampering period. He says, I think in Minnesota, it was trending over the last couple of off seasons to being somewhat year to year. As we talked with Atlanta, it felt like this was a place where if I play at the level I expect to play, that I can retire a Falcon. That was something that really excited me, and that's certainly the goal. You've got to earn the right to do that, but that was exciting to feel like I could get that opportunity here. So Atlanta sticking him or giving him a 4-year contract, and the big takeaway was Kirk Cousins wants to retire a Falcon because he feels like that's a spot that wanted him to retire a Falcon. Whereas in Minnesota, it seemed like the Vikings were willing to play ball and offer some sort of contract, but they didn't want to really see it all the way through for Kirk Cousins' entire career. Whereas Atlanta was more than happy to give him that long-term assurance of, if you want to play here for the rest of your NFL career, we're on board with that. Now, when it comes to where he's at in rehab on his current medical status, here's what he said. I can take drops. I can play the quarterback position, if you will, throwing the football. I think the minute I would have to leave the pocket is where you would say, yeah, he's still recovering from an Achilles. But taking drops, making throws, that's really no problem at this point. Now, watching the actual interview and then just the way I relayed the way he said it, there was a much different tone in that second part of it. But I hope he can, leave the pocket by September if needed. He tore his Achilles. I think it was in October, week 8. I think it was almost Halloween. So hopefully by the time August rolls around, he should be pretty much close to 100%. I think we'll get a much better idea when OTAs and mandatory minicamp come about. Does he have any sort of level of participation, or do they just completely shut him down and wait all the way until the summer? That will probably be our first real clue as where is Kirk Cousins really in his Achilles progression and recovery. So to kind of wrap up the show here, I want to toss a question on screen for you guys. 9.5 wins for the Falcons in 2024. Taking the more, taking the less on that. Let me know down below in the comments section. For a team that won 7 games last year, can Kirk Cousins come in and make him a 10-win team? I think so. I think he can do that, actually. Make sure to subscribe, by the way, to the channel if we get more updates on the illegal tampering allegations. You know that we're going to be the spot that breaks it down here on the channel. So don't miss a thing when it comes to the Dirty Birds when you are subscribed to the best and fastest growing Falcons YouTube community out there.